The request: an unsalvageable relationship. The Viper. Monique, my wife of 9 years and our 10-year partner, abruptly left me on Saturday the 16th. She's 36 and I'm 43. Her second marriage, mine being this one. She told me in April that she was unhappy with X, Y, and Z, but they were mainly small issues that could be resolved with ease. Over the years, I had allowed myself to get into a state of complacency where I would take us for granted, ignore her, not do as much as I could around the house, and other such behaviors. I never done anything really wrong, in the traditional sense. What a bunch of jerks. I'm strongly opposed to fing women, therefore I never cheated on her or handled our money irresponsibly. In April 2019, she informed me that she had fallen out of love after experiencing feelings of indifference for the previous 2 years. I was angry that at no point throughout that lengthy conversation did she tell me to sit down and that we were in serious trouble. During that time, she did occasionally make brief remarks such, "I don't want to talk about that. I don't care because we are dealing with our own problems." Looking back, I wish I had asked, "What do you mean?" However, I dismissed it as her being grumpy once more. I started doing those things every day starting on the 1st of last month when she told me what she needed from me in an effort to try and save our marriage. After around 4 weeks of this, on Monday, May 11th, she informed me that she had decided to end our relationship without giving a good explanation. That evening, I hear her on the phone, and even though I know her well, there's a difference in the way she's speaking. I quickly realized that it was a guy and that she was considering him more than just a buddy. After 2 more days, she eventually admitted to me on Wednesday, May 13th, "Say, I'm not happy about feeling guilty that I have feelings for someone other than you. That's in writing that I possess. I'm a complete mess by now," and it went on every night until Saturday, May 16th. When I finally asked her to stop talking to him on the phone after spending 3 hours at a friend's house because I couldn't stand to hear her voicemail every single night. I grabbed the phone from her and hung up when she answered no. I rushed outside to find out where she was headed when she leaped into the car. I opened the rear door because she had locked the front door, but before I could get inside, she slammed the car into reverse, and I had to duck backwards to escape getting struck by the force of the back door slamming shut. I receive a collect call from her at 8 a.m. on Sunday, May 17th, about 5 hours later, stating that the car is on the corner. I respond, "Okay, and where are you and when are you coming home?" And she ends by saying, "That's all I have to say." She then hung up, and I found out later that she had been given a ride to Albany by a coworker. When I checked my phone a few minutes later, the message came from Albany Airport. I've slept next to nothing and am currently a complete emotional disaster. Since she told me we were splitting up, I still don't get more than a few hours of sleep every day. After doing some research, I learned that she only took one flight to Nevada. Unexpectedly, I checked her Facebook page and saw nothing. However, on her list of pals, I notice a guy's profile that I've never seen before. It further states, age 36, location, Nevada. I realized then that she had gone there and that was him. She attempted to conceal her affair from me, even going so far as to fly out of state to have it with another man. After that, I experienced 3 days of the worst misery of my life. She didn't communicate with me at all, not even by email or phone, which is one reason. Eventually, on May 20th, a Wednesday, she phones to tells me she wants to stay with this person because she is in love with him. On June 6th, she is apparently returning here for a few weeks to finish off and pack away her belongings. We must choose who will receive what. The primary financial issue, however, is that the house is jointly owned, and she requested that I release her from the mortgage. However, I declined because my monthly income is less than $2,000 and my mortgage is $1,300. I don't currently have a feasible roommate alternative that would assist divide the bills with me. I spoke with her once more and explained that the only thing I could think of was for her to put her new life on hold and live here in the house with me as platonic roommates with separate bedrooms. We would also have separate bank accounts and continue to make payments on the house until it sells, which in this economic climate might take a year or longer. With reluctance, she agreed, but only for a period of 2 or 3 months. However, I'll worry more about it in the days to come. For now, one day at a time, one step at a time. She has always had my heart. I adore her still. How long it will take me to move on from her is a mystery to me. I now have to deal with living in the same house as her, where she has complete control over my actions. And I would have to put on a happy front. It was as though she was just a casual roommate, and I didn't give a damn about what they did. She has shown absolutely no empathy for the bereavement. I'm experiencing loss. She's posting updates on Facebook, such as the one she did yesterday. 20 hours ago, Monique and Alton came home from their mobile. At last, I felt happy. We both still work at X, but I'm going to be moving soon to work at X as one of April's worries was that she thought having both of us at the same place of business had harmed our marriage. Fair enough, I thought, and I found another work. On June 1st, at 12 per hour, I'm going to start working there. Everyone who liked and respected her at X is now disgusted, especially with the part about her leaving the state without telling me at the drop of a hat to be with another guy, and I have lost more than 2 hours of money. She drove away that night, and she literally bought the plane ticket an hour later. She also did this despite having a round-trip ticket for a visit with her family on the West Coast scheduled for May 30th and June 6th. Her employer nearly let her go for leaving the company, but it seems they opted to keep her on until June 6th when she goes back to New York. I should leave X since, according to rumors, she will return there the week of June 7th, for whatever long. She basically only had the clothes on her back when she departed. Along with other basics, she has been purchasing clothing with her credit card there. She sounded nothing like her when I talked to her this week. It sounds way too scattered intellectually, and asserting that it makes no difference if the residence is foreclosed. Poor credit is irrelevant. What counts is that the heart is content and unrestricted, etc. She had never before been careless with money in 10 years. She's not allowing herself to feel the immense shame I know she feels for doing this terrible thing to me and the two of us. Rather, she has concocted this cruel justification about delaying it for me. Additionally, she is texting and telling people that I tried to pull her out of the car and that she is terrified of me. I was composed the entire time I spoke with her on the phone a few days ago when I asked her about this. I figured that screaming at her or anything would probably just make her hang up. She admitted to me that she was afraid for her safety and that I needed to leave the state. I informed her that, in addition to not being in the car, there was no attempt to grasp, nor would there have been. She simply replied, "Yes, it would," to which I replied, "Look, you're making assumptions about what you think is going to happen. It's untrue, because in our 10 years together, I have never physically harmed you. That's just not grounded in reality for you to assume that I would suddenly start abusing your body. Of course, I'm the one who's being reasonable and sensible about it, but once more, she's mentally too damaged at the moment to deal with reality. I would only have to deal with her removing everything out of the 500 rental and leaving if she had done this at any point over the first 6 years of our marriage. But now that the mortgage is in both of our names and I am unable to pay it alone, I'm probably going to run into financial difficulties. This, coupled with losing the lady I love, is hard for me to accept. My parents abandoned me when I was a child, and I've always felt abandoned. I started living alone when I was 33 years old. Sometimes I felt lonely, but I was accustomed to it. But now, I've become, at the very least, extremely reliant on her. Being there, that was taken from me, and I can no longer stop waking up in a sweat after an hour or two. She remained here with me over the years. Whenever she got out of bed before me, I would usually wake up because I felt like she was no longer in our bed beside me. However, I've been abandoned in the worst way imaginable right now, and if I could go back 10 years and predict this day, I doubt that I would have taken our relationship seriously. Aside from eating very little and sleeping very little, I've changed over the past week from feeling uncomfortable and numb to feeling like it all hits me again. When I do break down, I've puked twice from weeping so much. This nightmare began less than 2 weeks ago, yet it feels like it has been going on for 2 months or longer. Take note of the bitter irony that she swiftly left her 8-year marriage in order to be with me. And now, a decade later, she has repeated the act. We had connected via the internet in a Tori Amos chat forum. Vanique was from the West Coast. In less than 6 weeks, we moved from chatting to phone conversations to her flying here to be with me in person, and after a few days, neither of us wanted to go. Thus, she never returned. Since the first day we moved into the same place, we were practically living together. She claimed she had to experience what it would be like to be physically with me when she arrived in New York State in April 2009. Because she said that after having slept with her first spouse, she was constantly repelled. She declared that she would never experience that again, despite the fact that our personalities and emotions matched. She also needed to know that I would, in her words, make her tremble when she went to bed. Luckily for us, it turned out to be so. "You know, I was never in love with you. I loved you as a friend. I never should have married you, and I'm never going to be with you again." She used to tell her first husband, over the phone 10 years ago, when she was here. She would let me listen in on their conversation. She did, however, say last week that she had been in love with me for a long time, something I am aware of, after which I turned apathetic and eventually lost interest in love. However, since I can't predict the future, I'm keeping up the possibility that you and I will eventually come to an understanding. I can't support a potential future reconciliation in the slightest. I just don't have the emotional capacity to wait for the phone to ring in 6 months or a year and potentially hear her apologize for what went wrong. I want to see you again. I just have to let that idea go and assume that our relationship is over. Of course, in order to obtain any type of divorce in New York State, we must first be legally separated for a full year. She has been calling me every night since Wednesday, May 20th, trying to talk me out of keeping the house. And my intuition tells me that she's not consciously aware of it, which is really rare with her. However, what she's really trying to do is keep me here in the house so that I can be there for her should the day ever come when she needs us to return. For her, akin to a backup insurance policy. She wouldn't want me to go back into a cheap, run-down apartment, so it feels like she doesn't want me to. After a few years of owning a house, I obviously don't want to return to renting an apartment, but sooner rather than later, that's probably what will happen. This week, I discovered some explanations for her behavior, which I communicated to her, but she is not at all accepting of them. She said, laughing at me, "You go ahead and do it if that's what you need in order to feel better about this." In long-term relationships, some women in their mid-30s begin to feel stale and old, and some experience a severe case of female midlife crisis, which has distinct symptoms. She performed each of the 5 signs. It struck me particularly hard because she was talking to this person on the phone, and somehow, in her midlife crisis, she knew that she was inciting me to confront her, and she felt that my hanging up the phone validated her decision to go, which she then took a step further and turned into an awful fantasy, believing that I was going to touch her. At work, I had a conversation with a married couple that I had never met before. They are both roughly 40 years old and have been together since the wife was 35. This week, she told me directly how, in a relatively short amount of time, she was telling her husband that she was done with him and that she was leaving to be with someone else. She claimed that even after roughly 6 months, she was still experiencing emotional problems. She then saw a therapist, where she was informed about this particular type of acute midlife crisis experienced by women. A few months later, she made amends with her husband, and the two of them have been together ever since. That is somewhat irrelevant, because, in my opinion, as of right now, Monique has gone too far by starting a physical relationship with someone else. Before she announced her split on May 11th, she and I had been close as recently as this month. Combined with the irrational fear of me, because I'm strongly against it and have never done it to a girl, she is aware of how damaging it is to me. I'm cool with it if she comes here and we have a platonic relationship in different rooms, but I say fine very loosely because nothing about this is okay. Because I don't want to or am able to do so right now. Be actively involved in a relationship with her that is similar to marriage. A week ago, it was just a phone-based fantasy, so it wasn't the case. A plan she had not yet carried out. But now that she has, everything is completely different. I simply don't know what will happen next. She is no longer dependable in any way. And in the unlikely event that she does visit, I've already imagined horrifying scenarios on her end, such as when I work different hours from her. Will she bring only the essentials, destroy the TV or anything else, and take our automobile across the nation before she disappears forever? There's more to this than that. We have only been 11 months into a 5-year auto loan, which is $300 per month, because she wanted to buy a new car last year. We both have it in our names as well. I'm left without a car to get to work, so she could come here and, I suppose, just take it. Etc. is struggling to digest all that has happened so rapidly, and there are a lot of unanswered questions regarding the house, finances, and potential foreclosure. My credit was destroyed. I just can't process it all, and I find it difficult to express my ideas clearly and coherently without becoming sidetracked. Update: 2 days ago, I sent Monique an email about this. Just wanted to let you know, Monique, that I hope we can work together to be as fair and polite to each other as we possibly be during this time that is drastically changing our lives. I don't want us to separate once we've settled our differences in New York. It's a mutual hatred. Personally, I don't wish to harbor such a bad attitude. Already, the loss of you and everything that goes along with it is more than I can handle without going into nervous collapse. I already feel so destroyed, so adding hatred on top of that is too much negative emotion. I would never want you to suffer harm, and if the time ever came for you, which I pray it doesn't, to be hurt and in need of support or just someone to talk to, I most certainly wouldn't want you to be left waiting for me to pick up the phone. Even though it hasn't felt like it lately, you tell yourself things like, no, I can't call him, he hates me, and I know you care about me. I can therefore continue to care for you in the same way as long as you do, on any level. Thus, if you could please cooperate with me to maintain that as a reality. She said, I appreciate your efforts in reaching out as a friend, in response. I still want you to know that I'm happy, even though I don't mean to hurt you. As a friend, I hope you can feel pleased for me. I'm aware that might not be achievable. I did not give her the following response, since I lacked the energy to fight her. However, I think you should be pleased for her. Are you joking with me? How was this alleged bliss attained? By abandoning me and ruining me. To put it mildly, I find it offensive that she would send me an email with that. Why didn't she just say, I don't want us to hate each other either, in response? Thank you for being so generous. It means a lot to me that you're trying to make a big deal out of this. She wrote to me on paper last week, 3 days before she departed, saying, I'm scared to death to see what happens next, but I soldier on. When bad things happen, you respond like that, you bounce back. How is she persevering? In fact, she believes that what she did was daring. How does soldiering on equate to leaving your job, house, kiddos, and real-world duties behind without warning, flying across the nation to see another guy, and leaving your 10-year marriage behind? Since the age of 16, she has never experienced a day of singledom. It's me who gets left behind, all by myself, to handle this. It's me who has persevered throughout the past week. On the other hand, I think Monique did something really cowardly and self-centered. I appreciate the responses thus far, but regrettably, I am still stuck letting her return to the house so we can divide the bills. I'm aware that this will be an extremely difficult and depressing situation for me to deal with. but right now I'm at a loss for money and don't appear to have any other roommate options. Then, I just need someone else to assist me with paying my expenses and mortgage. I will lose my house to foreclosure in a few months if Monique doesn't follow through on her promise to do this, and it will take at least 10 years for my credit to recover. Monique has made the decision to send me into this hitherto unimaginable financial and emotional misery. And at this point, I really don't have any other choices. After being gone for 2 weeks, Monique is expected to return 1 week later on June 6 to complete the platonic roommate share the mortgage transaction. And I'm still experiencing a lot of anxiety over it. Over the past week or so, there hasn't been much communication between us, and I'm aware that it's because she's out in the West giving him her whole attention. She therefore truly doesn't want to discuss or consider me and us at this time. And in a dysfunctional sense, I suppose I can understand that. It was incredibly difficult for me to leave my work of 5 years and 8 months ago yesterday. Many folks wished me farewell and complimented me on how amazing I was, and I received a card that many people had signed on my behalf. Because I was so closely connected to Monique at work, I was a crying mess when I got home. She didn't pick up when I called her cell, so I was crying and basically told her how hard it was to leave there for the last time, how alone I was and she wasn't there for it, and how the combination of losing her, us, and then quitting my job was just too much to handle at once. I assured her that there was no need for her to contact me again, and so at that very moment, I simply had to tell her how I was feeling. She did, however, call me back less than a minute later, wondering if I was feeling better. This was about an hour later, and I answered yes because I had spent the previous hour on the phone with a buddy after I had phoned her. Attempting to communicate with pals on a regular basis has helped me stay somewhat grounded. Despite my statement in the message that she didn't have to and that I hadn't even asked her to, I thanked her for giving me a call back. Thus, despite her desire to avoid a marriage, Monique still harbors profound affections for me, as her closest friend often reminds me. There are undoubtedly many on this board that are worse off than I am. Individuals who experienced what I did yesterday might have received no response at all from their estranged spouse, or they might have received a nasty response, or something else entirely. I'm not sure if the photo of Monique below will show up on this board or not, but I just had to post one of my favorite candid images from our house. Those of you who appreciate physical beauty might be able to relate to why losing her is so difficult for me. Despite the sentimental, the main reason I'm having so much pain is because of the love connection loss of her. She shouldn't have handled or done anything to us in that way. If she had informed me she thought we were no longer together and that she had flown to stay with her brother 5 days later, I could have at least said something reasonable. She could have then gone on to rebuild her life in a different place by finding a new job, dating someone after some time had passed, etc. I'm too direct and honest a person to put on a front like that, so I won't pretend like I don't care about her anymore. Just like our spouses have done, just give up caring. It would be simpler to let go. That, I believe, was the main argument being made. I assure you that my wife is stunning. She'll find another guy with no problem at all. I find it really difficult to see her with someone else. It's not as simple as it would be to just ignore it and move on. She claims not to be returning, yet she didn't show up on June 6th. I used to worry about whether or not she would have a mental breakdown when she arrived. This terrible, empty sadness that I'll never see her again has persisted for the past 3 days. I can't express how much I regret that the last day I saw her on May 16th was that terrible night when she drove left, even though a part of me understands it's probably for the best. I intended to use this time, now that we are selling the property together, to honor our long-standing mutual love by waiting the appropriate number of days for her to calm down. And we spent some pleasant, carefree time doing small things that we both liked. The day before returning here was Friday, June 5th, which is when everything went wrong. Additionally, she had spent nearly 3 weeks in Orlando with this other guy, merely paying for everything with her Visa card. She sent me a very upset message when I got home from work because Visa had put a hold on her card due to a late payment. She then instructed them to withdraw the $2,000 from the bank. However, I had only $1,000 remaining in our joint bank account for emergency funds in case she needed them while she was out there. Since she left the state without telling me, I put the remaining funds, or roughly $10,000, under my own new account. After 4 days of stillness, she told me she was in love with him. Everyone I knew then informed me that I needed to protect myself and relocate all that money as I am the one living in this property with an outstanding mortgage that still owes $150,000 on it, since we only had a shared bank account and she no longer wanted to stay here. After that, I paid a lawyer $150,000 who informed me that was legally permissible. Furthermore, she concurred that it was the appropriate course of action on my part to make sure Monique wouldn't empty the bank account in preparation for her new life with him in Nevada. Given that she had left the marriage, the house, the job, etc., my suspicions about this new guy's lack of wealth or financial difficulties turned out to be accurate. Monique informed me that they lacked the funds to travel the roughly 200 miles to the airport the following day. I asked her if he had relatives who could give them a quick loan of perhaps $30 for gas money. She then gave me a call back and stated, "They're all on welfare and trailers. Not that it's any of your business. They therefore don't have any money for us." The majority of his employment check appears to have been garnished or held up because he owes so much in back support for all of the children from his 2 prior marriages. Since neither of us had come up with a clear solution the previous evening, namely, that I could send Monique some cash by Western Union, I then contacted her back early in the morning, roughly 5 hours before she was supposed to arrive at the airport. In response to her plea for food and gas, I sent her $100. About 20 minutes after her aircraft was scheduled to depart, she called me back and said she had not arrived at the airport in time. Then, on Sunday, I informed her that, because she had to return to work here on Tuesday or risk being fired, I would be happy to get her a one-way ticket for Monday. Subsequently, she informed me that she would only agree to it if I settled her credit card debt, which amounted to more than $4,000. After she returned here and worked to help put money into our house, I told her no, that I would divide those bills with her. Till then, I'll be damned if I'm going to take practically half the money in the bank to pay her credit card debts because she hasn't shown me that she would genuinely return. Fortunately for me, I was merely an approved secondary cardholder with the same credit card information as her when she opened both of her credit cards under her name alone 10 years ago. Therefore, even though we are officially married, they cannot hold me financially accountable if she doesn't pay those bills, according to Visa and MasterCard, who I spoke with, since the accounts only have her name on them. After she rejected my offer to buy her a plane ticket on Sunday, she texted her employer at work on Monday. She texted him to let him know she was quitting and wouldn't be returning since she lacked the courage to contact and talk to him. Subsequently, she sent me an email expressing the same concerns about her absence and requesting that I send her a laptop and some work attire since she is currently seeking employment. She merely bought some inexpensive clothes and jeans from Walmart there to get by because she departed on May 16th with nothing. Even though my pals are telling me to screw her, I went along with it. It's not your business that she left. Let her worry about how she's going to acquire her crap. Though I can appreciate her sentiment, everything in this house is technically joint marital property, so in the interest of good faith, I think it would be best to just send her her laptop and one box of clothes in the hopes that she won't fly here anytime soon and just take, shattering whatever in her path here. I sent her an email yesterday asking her what she wanted to do regarding our joint mortgage. Hopefully, because this email is reasonable, we will begin to move forward. I guess I'll just have to wait and see, though, as I haven't heard from her in 5 days. Here are a few quotes from the lengthy correspondence regarding our home. "Hello Monique, you wrote on June 15th, saying that I could sign it over to you or put it on the market. However, you wrote on June 16th, yeah, I know you need a roommate, a lot of people do. You were aware of that a decade ago. You ought to get 2 roommates and keep the house for this reason. Would you kindly clarify if you are in favor of us listing our house for sale? You've bewildered me by suggesting that I should keep the house one day and then put it on the market the next. Since we are co-owners, I am aware that both of our signatures will be needed if you want it to be put on the market. Please remember that we simply have no idea how long it will take to sell, should you decide to put it on the market. Therefore, you and I will still probably risk foreclosure if it doesn't sell before or for the amount that the money runs out. For 10 years, no more credit cards, etc. I'm pleading with you to, for whatever reason, think again and keep the door open for what I know you have so far decided against doing, which is returning here to work wherever one finds employment, similar to how I would be, should just earn enough revenue to maintain mortgage payments in order to prevent foreclosure. Until it sells, tarnish our reputations jointly. I don't think it's appropriate that you are signing the house over to me, considering that we both decided to take out this mortgage together in 2015. I don't think I should be the only one concerned about 10 years of damaged credit. I no longer doubt your motivations, Monique, for making the decisions you do. I think I've expressed everything I needed to about my thoughts on your decisions regarding our relationship thus far. All I'm asking for are some details regarding your plans for our house. I'm not trying to find fault with your responses or the reasoning behind them. I would like to continue discussing our house problem with you in a logical and non-judgmental manner. I also wanted to highlight that we paid around $800 extra a month, or about $35,000 for the 3.5 years that we paid the mortgage here rather than continuing to rent. Owning a property and incurring monthly mortgage payments are primarily motivated by the fact that they are investments. Instead of merely wasting money away on rent, recall how we used to discuss how, after around 10 years, our monthly mortgage payments would be lower here than for others who were renting apartments because the cost of living would eventually exceed our fixed mortgage amount. Alternatively, suppose that this occurred 3 years from now. At that point, the housing market and economy might be doing fairly well. In addition, this house might be worth more than $200,000 in a few years, unlike right now when a realtor has informed me that it is only worth what we paid for it. Furthermore, since our names are on it, if we sold the remaining 25,000 each, we could both conceivably walk away in a few years with a profit of $50,000 or more. But if we sell now, we'll only break even, meaning the additional $35,000 we've paid out over the past 3.5 years was virtually a waste of money. Therefore, selling at this time would be illogical from a financial standpoint. Aside from preventing a potential foreclosure, of course, if someone I knew who appeared even somewhat solid financially wants to move in here tomorrow, which is still a possibility, and share the mortgage with me, essentially covering your half of the bill, it would more than satisfy me. If you don't have to, I in no way want you to feel compelled to be here and pay our mortgage. It would be acceptable if someone else could accomplish that instead of you. If at all possible, please don't feel like you have to do something because you're stuck here, and perhaps during the entire procedure you would be miserable. That's not what I want for you. To be honest, I'm not sure whether that's what you want for yourself. If we can arrange for both of us to work here, pay the mortgage for a little period of time, put the house up for sale, then take it off the market in the event that I find a reliable roommate, you are free to return to the West if you so want. Once more, the purpose of that was to preserve this investment rather than treat it as a $35,000 luxury that we shared for a short while. I recently signed up for an online dating service even though I'm not emotionally prepared for it yet. But it can take me a few months, or longer, to find someone with whom I click. I haven't written to anyone as of now, but I reasoned that I should keep the door open in case I met someone, or to stay in a committed relationship for several months, and they happened to rent an apartment nearby, then perhaps she could move in here, similar to what folks did when they spent some time together. I think that as a single lady looking for a partner, living in a house, I present a pretty good picture. Please don't make jokes about how impoverished a woman must be to put up with me. I'm kidding. Given that my wife has stopped actively participating in our marriage, we co-own a home. Please do not hesitate to share your thoughts with me if they differ from the ones I have stated in this email. Is there anything in this email, if you have none other, that you agree with him on or decide to do? Do you think is Opus supporting her or is he acting appropriately in this situation? Please leave a comment. After I finish up some more work, part 2 will be